Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Martial Universe Season 10 Part 32 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. 3 days swiftly passed by amidst this extremely heated atmosphere. The commotion that was created, because of the fact that 4 of the largest factions in the Beast War region had formed an alliance, was continuously accumulating. Finally, it caused the atmosphere of the entire Beast War region to turn boiling hot. Although this alliance would inevitably be disadvantageous to certain factions, the 3 great demon commanders' factions were still in charge of this region. Therefore, under their instruction, the formation of this alliance, which was also forced by circumstances, became an immutable fact. The only thing that they had to worry about was the sky battle arena held by Mang Mountain. If this newly formed, For Titans Palace, was able to survive this storm, it would be truly able to tower over the Beast War region and squeeze into the ranks of the top-tier factions in the demonic beast world. On the other hand, if they failed, this so-called alliance would become nothing but a joke. At that time, half of the Beast War region would also be taken over by the Mang Mountain. Moreover, the 4 great factions will lose all respect and it would be difficult for them to advance in the future. Hence, everyone's focal point was the fight at the Sky Battle Arena that was about to take place. Demonic Beast Ancient Plains. These were endless ancient plains located at the border of the Beast War region and the Mang Mountain. Typically, this place was quiet and peaceful. As the land was barren, there were hardly any factions here. Therefore, this was a relatively peaceful and deserted place. However, this plains had turned into the most eye-catching place within a short few days. There was naturally no need to explain the reason behind this. The originally empty area in the middle of the demonic beast ancient plains was already extremely noisy. Countless rushing wind sounds appeared continuously from all over the place, as many figures swarmed over like a swarm of locusts. Finally, they landed on the ground. From a distance away, the black mass of people looked just like a surging black ocean. The scale of this event was even more majestic compared to the event held at the Divine Item Mountain Range 2 months ago. Clearly, there were many powerful factions in the demonic beast world, who were paying close attention to the fight between these 2 regions. The scorching sun hung high in the azure sky. One hot wave after another accompanied by buzzing noises spread and it caused the temperature of the plains to gradually rise. The middle of the plains was a spacious empty ground. However, no one dared to step foot into that area. That was because they were well aware that it was a very dangerous place. Many pairs of eyes were roaming across this deserted plains. Meanwhile, their eyes contained a flicker of anticipation. Clearly, everyone was eager to find out the results of the fight that was about to take place. It is really unexpected. The 3 great demon commanders actually chose to form an alliance. Aren't they the ones typically most at odds with one another? Moreover, the Deep Lightning Mountain is actually qualified to join them. Many private conversations were taking place all over the plains. However, the ones who said these comments were typically not from the Beast War region. Otherwise, they would have known of the big battle that took place 2 months ago. But your information is really outdated. The current Deep Lightning Mountain is very different from before. 2 months ago, they even fought evenly against the 3 great demon commanders at the Divine Item Mountain Range. Their strength is not inferior to that of the 3 great demon commanders' factions. Therefore, they will naturally be included in this alliance. I see. However, isn't it a little too naive to believe that this last-minute alliance can really oppose the Mang Mountain? Backing Mang Mountain is the 9 Phoenix tribe. Who knows? However, it is rumored that the new demon commander of the Deep Lightning Mountain is related to the celestial demon Martin tribe. I wonder if this is for real. Oh? Is that so? It's no wonder. Various conversations spread across the plains. Most of them were information regarding the Deep Lightning Mountain. It was likely that many of them were quite curious about this faction in the Beast War region, who had risen rapidly in recent times. Their curious conversations continued for around an hour or so, before everyone sensed the natural yuan power around them vibrating vigorously. Immediately, they turned their heads before they saw countless figures whistling over from the distant northern sky. This scene appeared as though the sun was being blotted out. The Four Titans Palace has arrived. Everyone looked at the group, which came swarming over from all directions. Immediately, their spirits were uplifted. It seems like the stars of this show have finally arrived. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many figures came rushing over from a great distance away. Finally, they directly landed in the middle of the plains. The land seemed to have trembled when they arrived. It seemed as though the elites from the Four Titans Palace have all showed up. Moreover, behind them, the other demon commanders were also leading their respective factions. That was because these demon commanders typically relied on the three great demon commanders. Now that the three great demon commanders established the Four Titans Palace, they were naturally roped into it. Therefore, this group could be considered as the elite fighting force of the entire Beast War region. Such a lineup caused the expressions of many onlookers to turn grave. If they were to start a war with Mang Mountain, there was no telling how massive the bloodbath would be. Fortunately, both parties could not afford to pay that price. Hence, they ultimately chose to duke it out via the relatively gentler Sky Battle Arena. Many pairs of eyes looked at the black mass of people. Other than the familiar three great demon commanders, there were two other figures standing at the front. One of them resembled a metal tower and he looked exceptionally menacing. The other was a tall and skinny figure and his youthful face wore a warm smile. His appearance seemed at odds with the large number of troops, with frightening and murderous aura, standing behind him. However, some of those who were well connected knew that this seemingly gentle-looking young man had forced the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander into a miserable state, with just the strength of the initial profound death stage, back at the Divine Item Mountain range. Why hasn't Mang Mountain arrived yet? Lin Dong looked at the scorching sun hanging in the sky. After which, he glanced at the crowd, which stretched on endlessly. Promptly, there was a stunned expression in his eyes. Clearly, he did not expect this event to draw such a large crowd. They should be arriving soon. Standing beside him, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander replied. Meanwhile, there was a menacing expression surging onto his face. A bunch of mongrel birds. I have never seen eye to eye with them. Today, I will meet them in battle and let them understand that our Beast War region is no easy pushover. What tribe does the five great chiefs of Mang Mountain belong to? Lin Dong turned his head and asked. He did not know much about the five great chiefs of Mang Mountain. The five great chiefs of Mang Mountain are also called the Five Kings. They are divided into the Northern, Southern, Eastern, Western Kings and the Mysterious King. The Mysterious King is their leader. The Ghost Condor Demon Commander said, other than the Mysterious King, the remaining four are from the Blood Vulture tribe, which is one of the 8 king tribes. This tribe is extremely close to the 9 Phoenix tribe. Moreover, the 4 of them are blood brothers with the same surname Ten. Their names are Feng, Wind, Lin, Wood, Hua, Fire, Shan, Mountain. Strictly speaking, they have quite a reputation in the demonic beast world. Members of the Blood Vulture tribe, Lin Dong nodded. They actually came from one of the 8 king tribes. That mysterious king is called Luo Tong. He is not a member of the Blood Vulture tribe. Instead, he comes from the 9 Phoenix tribe. The expression of the Ghost Condor Demon Commander became a little more solemn upon mentioning this mysterious king. It seems like he was rather wary of the latter. Lin Dong's pupils focused. This person actually came from one of the 4 overlord tribes. It's no wonder Ghost Condor and the rest were afraid of him. Strictly speaking, Mang Mountain was a faction aligned with the 9 Phoenix tribe. Moreover, the 9 Phoenix tribe was not neutral like the Dragon tribe. Instead, they enjoyed flaunting their strength and showcasing their status in the demonic beast world. As such, it seems like Mang Mountain was no ordinary faction. It was likely that an earth-shaking battle was going to occur today. Lin Dong gently clenched his long hands. There was a trace of excitement and the desire to fight rising in his eyes. After the Four Titans Palace arrived, there was still no news from Mang Mountain. However, Lin Dong's group was not anxious. Instead, they shut their eyes and took a rest. The din, which enveloped this area, was isolated. This wait lasted for 4 hours. Just as everyone were beginning to feel a little impatient, Lin Dong suddenly opened his gently shut eyes. He could sense a shocking fluctuation heading towards them from afar. "They are about to arrive," Lin Dong said softly, while his eyes stared intently towards the western sky. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander trio had also detected something at this moment. Immediately, a tinge of shock flashed across their eyes. Clearly, they were shocked by the fact that Lin Dong was actually able to detect the activity in the distance before they could do so. The world suddenly turned dim in the less than 2 minutes it took for them to cast their attention towards the western sky. All the noise that had enveloped the place abruptly disappeared. Countless pairs of eyes looked into the distant horizon. At that spot, blood-colored clouds were rushing over at a frightening speed. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As the blood-colored clouds slowly closed in, everyone finally realized that it was a group of people wearing blood-red armor. Many sharp pair of eyes, which were filled with brutality, were present under the armors. Amidst these blood-red clouds, there was a 10,000 feet large flag fluttering with the wind. Beneath the flag was a giant dark red bird. 9 different colored tails were present behind that large bird, giving it a brilliant yet dangerous appearance. "Mang Mountain has arrived!" Exclamations erupted when everyone saw the blood-red clouds, which were being accompanied by a frightening aura. At the same time, there was a tinge of anticipation in the voices. It seems like they were growing increasingly impatient as they waited for this huge fight to take place. "Ha ha, for Titan's Palace? Do you think that an alliance that you guys formed at the very last moment is actually worthy of the name Four Titans? You truly do not know your own limits if you wish to oppose my Mang Mountain with this." Many blood-red clouds arrived at the middle of the plains. A loud laughter, which was filled with an arrogant ridicule, ricocheted across the land. 5 individuals hovered in mid-air. After which, the surrounding din seemed to have died down a little at a time. Those eyes, which were looking at these figures, were filled with rich respect and fear. Clearly, Mang Mountain posed a greater deterrent as compared to the newly formed For Titan's Palace. Amidst this silence, Lin Dong was observing those 5 individuals. 4 of them were wearing blood-red gowns and their faces were filled with haughtiness and arrogance. However, the faint yet frightening ripples radiating from their bodies made others aware that they indeed possessed the qualifications to act in this arrogant fashion. In between the 4 of them was a man wearing green clothes. That man had both his hands behind his back and he was quite handsome. His brows did not hold the same arrogance as the other 4. However, as he stood amongst the 4 of them, he displayed an unique and noble aura. In fact, the 4 of them paled in comparison when compared to him. Clearly, amongst the 5 kings of Mang Mountain, he should be mysterious King Luo Tong, a top expert who came from the 9 Phoenix tribe. The 9 Phoenix tribe was also an overlord tribe which had originated since the ancient times. Their noble aura was akin to that of the proud demeanor of the celestial demon Martin tribe and the distant majesty of the dragon tribe. That man in green clothes looked at the distant Four Titans Palace in a nonchalant fashion. However, unlike the 4 individuals around him, he did not mock them. Of course, this was not because he was more well-mannered than them. Rather, it was because he thought that they were not worthy of his attention. "We have yet to start the Sky Battle Arena fight. What is there to be proud of?" The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander was clearly filled with resentment towards Mang Mountain. Hence, he chuckled after hearing the other party's ridicule. "Ha, Heaven Dragon, we just met a while back. However, it seems like you have become much more arrogant." A man wearing a blood-red gown chuckled while he stared at Heaven Dragon with mocking eyes. This person was called Teng Feng and he was the Eastern King of Mang Mountain. It must be because he managed to obtain some allies. Standing beside Teng Shan, the Southern King Ting Lin glanced at Lin Dong and Little Flame, before he mocked, "You must be the new demon commander of Deep Lightning Mountain, am I right? I have heard a lot of rumors about you recently." "That's right, the mysterious divine palace is in your hands, am I right?" Lin Dong's eyes narrowed after hearing the words mysterious divine palace. Many people knew that it was the divine item treasury, but there was hardly anyone who knew that it was in fact the mysterious divine palace. However, the other party had managed to identify it immediately. It was likely that they were also quite knowledgeable about the mysterious divine palace. That item is indeed in my possession. However, there is no reason for me to hand over something that lands in my hands. Lin Dong smilingly said. The Eastern King Teng Feng chuckled upon hearing this. After which, he stared at Lin Dong and said, "Relax, I am not asking you to hand it over. This is because I will snatch it personally. I'm afraid that you don't have the ability to do so." Little Flame's expression was vicious as he laughed coldly. Truly a bunch of rascals that do not know their limits. The Western King Teng Hua curled his lips and said. He was clearly displeased with the fact that this newly formed alliance actually dared to challenge their Mang Mountain. What is the point of uttering such nonsense? Let's follow the rules and fight. You do not have the qualifications to decide if you want to hand it over. The green-clothed man spoke in a faint voice. He clearly possessed quite a high status in Mang Mountain. Hence, the other four kings nodded after he spoke. Meanwhile, his eyes were unfriendly as they stared at Lin Dong's group. The crowd standing outside the middle area parted their lips as they looked at both parties. Both parties have exposed their anger and started bickering immediately. Hence, it seems like it was impossible to seek a peaceful resolution for today's matter. All of you should be aware of the rules and I shall not elaborate. The party that wins 3 out of 5 rounds is the winner and the winner will take half of the other party's territory. Do you have any questions? The man wearing green clothes looked at Lin Dong. He paused before speaking. My tribe is quite interested in your mysterious divine palace. Hence, if you hand it over voluntarily, we might allow your Deep Lightning Mountain to continue living in the Beast War region. I think that it will be more appropriate to discuss these issues after you win, am I right? Lin Dong gently smiled. Standing beside him, a fierce glint filled Little Flame's eyes. Did these fellows assume that Lin Dong's group would lose even before the fight begins? Evidently, the green-clothed man did not expect Lin Dong to rebut him as he was slightly startled. Promptly, he nodded in a nonchalant fashion. However, a chill was revealed on the corner of his lips. Since you enjoy embarrassing yourselves, we will do as you please. HMPH, we still do not know who is going to end up embarrassing themselves. The Golden Ape Demon Commander cried out furiously. Clenching his large hand, a black metal rod appeared in a flash. After which, the body of his rod shook and even the air itself was torn apart. The green-clothed man glanced indifferently at the Golden Ape Demon Commander, before he promptly stomped on the ground. The land in front of him shook and the ground actually rose. After the dust scattered, a 10,000 feet large giant stage was formed. Teng Feng, Teng Lin. The both of you should go together. End this fight as quickly as possible. The green-clothed man commanded in a faint voice. I? The Eastern King Teng Feng and the Western King Teng Lin nodded. After which, their bodies moved before they appeared on the huge stage. Their eyes looked downwards at the large group from the Four Titans Palace, before their arrogant laughter spread. Who dares to fight us? I will deal with Teng Feng. The Golden Ape Demon Commander tightened the grip over his metal rod and spoke in a deep voice. This was their first match and they had to do their best. Otherwise, it might end up demoralizing everyone else. Leave Teng Lin to me. The Ghost Condor Demon Commander also stepped forward. Both of them knew the importance of the first and the second match. Although they knew about Lin Dong's and Little Flame's strength, the opponents in front of them were not simple individuals. Therefore, even if they were to fight, there was no guarantee of victory. Lin Dong was naturally aware of their worries. However, he did not say anything. All he did was to nod his head. Swoosh! The two of them did not say anything else after seeing this. They moved their bodies and leaped onto the stage, before they appeared in front of Teng Feng and Teng Lin respectively. The four of them were in a face-off. As they stared at each other, an icy cold ferocity gushed forth. Meanwhile, a majestic and mighty aura slowly emerged from their bodies and reverberated across the sky. For ultimate Samsara stage practitioners. Everyone stared at the vast and mighty ripples in the sky, before their eyes involuntarily turned heated. Both parties were the top experts from their respective regions, and it was truly difficult to tell who would emerge victorious in this clash. The natural flowing air in their surroundings seemed to have stiffened at this moment. The pressure radiating from the stage caused the expressions of many powerful individuals to turn pale. Lin Dong's eyes were staring intently at the stage. In the next moment, he suddenly narrowed his eyes. That was because he suddenly heard the sound of thunder. Wild gales blew before vast and mighty yuan power wrapped around those four figures. They looked just like meteorites, as they suddenly charged forward and flew across the sky. After which, they clashed violently in an extremely shocking fashion. Boom boom. Thunder continuously reverberated across the stage. The glowing figures crossed and fought with each other at lightning speed. In fact, the entire space became distorted. Wild and violent natural yuan power gathered in a crazy fashion, and even the sky became much dimmer due to this wild and violent clash. The expressions of Lin Dong's group were solemn as they stared at the intense fight occurring on the stage. Both parties were at the Samsara stage and had similar strength. However, the Teng Feng duo had an advantage in terms of their bloodline. This was because the both of them were from the Blood Vulture tribe, which was one of the 8 king tribes. Although they were not as powerful as the 4 overlord tribes, they still had a significant upper hand when up against the Golden Ape Demon Commander and the Ghost Condor Demon Commander. However, this was not a massive advantage that could not be breached. Moreover, the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo were smart, and they knew when to fight and when to dodge. After all, they were also extremely powerful, and it was very difficult for the Teng Feng duo to completely overwhelm them. Of course, they did not sincerely believe that they were able to defeat the Teng Feng duo. As of now, they only wished to drag this fight out and end it with a draw. For them, this was equivalent to a victory. Big brother, those two fellows are really powerful. Little Flame had a grave expression. He could naturally tell that the Teng Feng duo had the advantage in this frightening clash occurring on the stage. They are after all members of the Blood Vulture tribe, and it is very difficult to deal with them. However, we do not hope for a victory. All we hope for is that they do not make any mistakes. As long as we can force a draw, it will be considered as our victory. Regardless, we are indeed lacking in terms of our foundation when compared to Mang Mountain. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander said in a deep voice. The blood-red clouds gradually disappeared before they turned into many huge groups of people. Standing right in front were 5 individuals hovering in the sky. Their eyes were filled with ridicule as they stared at Lin Dong's distant group. Teng Feng, Teng Lin. The both of you should go together. End this fight as quickly as possible. The green-clothed man commanded in a faint voice. I? The Eastern King Teng Feng and the Western King Teng Lin nodded. After which, their bodies moved before they appeared on the huge stage. Their eyes looked downwards at the large group from the 4 Titans' palace, before their arrogant laughter spread. Who dares to fight us? I will deal with Teng Feng. The Golden Ape Demon Commander tightened the grip over his metal rod and spoke in a deep voice. This was their first match, and they had to do their best. Otherwise, it might end up demoralizing everyone else. Leave Teng Lin to me. The Ghost Condor Demon Commander also stepped forward. Both of them knew the importance of the first and the second match. Although they knew about Lin Dong's and Little Flame's strength, the opponents in front of them were not simple individuals. Therefore, even if they were to fight, there was no guarantee of victory. Lin Dong was naturally aware of their worries. However, he did not say anything. All he did was to nod his head. Swoosh! The two of them did not say anything else after seeing this. They moved their bodies and leaped onto the stage, before they appeared in front of Teng Feng and Teng Lin respectively. The 4 of them were in a face-off. As they stared at each other, an icy cold ferocity gushed forth. Meanwhile, a majestic and mighty aura slowly emerged from their bodies and reverberated across the sky. For ultimate Samsara stage practitioners, everyone stared at the vast and mighty ripples in the sky, before their eyes involuntarily turned heated. Both parties were the top experts from their respective regions, and it was truly difficult to tell who would emerge victorious in this clash. The natural flowing air in their surroundings seemed to have stiffened at this moment. The pressure radiating from the stage caused the expressions of many powerful individuals to turn pale. Lin Dong's eyes were staring intently at the stage. In the next moment, he suddenly narrowed his eyes. That was because he suddenly heard the sound of thunder. Wild gales blew before vast and mighty yuan power wrapped around those four figures. They looked just like meteorites, as they suddenly charged forward and flew across the sky. After which, they clashed violently in an extremely shocking fashion. Boom boom. Thunder continuously reverberated across the stage. The glowing figures crossed and fought with each other at lightning speed. In fact, the entire space became distorted. Wild and violent natural yuan power gathered in a crazy fashion, and even the sky became much dimmer due to this wild and violent clash. The expressions of Lin Dong's group were solemn as they stared at the intense fight occurring on the stage. Both parties were at the Samsara stage and had similar strength. However, the Teng Feng duo had an advantage in terms of their bloodline. This was because the both of them were from the Blood Vulture tribe, which was one of the 8 king tribes. Although they were not as powerful as the 4 overlord tribes, they still had a significant upper hand when up against the Golden Ape Demon Commander and the Ghost Condor Demon Commander. However, this was not a massive advantage that could not be breached. Moreover, the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo were smart and they knew when to fight and when to dodge. After all, they were also extremely powerful, and it was very difficult for the Teng Feng duo to completely overwhelm them. Of course, they did not sincerely believe that they were able to defeat the Teng Feng duo. As of now, they only wished to drag this fight out and end it with a draw. For them, this was equivalent to a victory. Big brother, those two fellows are really powerful. Little Flame had a grave expression. He could naturally tell that the Teng Feng duo had the advantage in this frightening clash occurring on the stage. They are after all members of the Blood Vulture tribe, and it is very difficult to deal with them. However, we do not hope for a victory. All we hope for is that they do not make any mistakes. As long as we can force a draw, it will be considered as our victory. Regardless, we are indeed lacking in terms of our foundation when compared to Man Mountain. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander said in a deep voice. The blood-red clouds gradually disappeared before they turned into many huge groups of people. Standing right in front were 5 individuals hovering in the sky. Their eyes were filled with ridicule as they stared at Lin Dong's distant group. Force a draw her. Lin Dong was staring at the stage while his brows were gently furrowed. For some unknown reason, he felt like it was not going to be an easy task to force a draw. Nonetheless, he also understood that unless one had some special techniques, it was very difficult to emerge victorious in a fight between peers. Bang! On the stage, 4 figures violently crossed each other. After which, many large cracks spread across the surface of the stage before 4 figures were thrown back 10,000 feet, with their legs rubbing against the ground. At the moment, the 4 of them had rather grave expressions and their breathing had become much more ragged. Clearly, the ferocious clash from before took a heavy toll on both parties. If you want to defeat us, I'm afraid that it isn't going to be as simple as you imagine. The Golden Ape Demon Commander held his metal rod and spoke in a deep voice. Is that so? Teng Feng laughed coldly upon hearing this. He turned his head to look at the green-clothed man behind him. When the latter saw his act, he gently nodded his head. Warm-up is over. Next, I will allow you country bumpkins to see who the real 4 titans are. A tinge of ridicule appeared on Teng Feng's face. Following which, he took a step forward together with Teng Lin. After which, they clenched their hands before a bright light pillar slowly took shape in their hands. An extremely frightening ripple suddenly swept across the place the moment this light pillar was formed. Roar! A low and deep roar was emitted from the hands of the Teng Feng duo. The light pillars gradually took shape before it transformed into 2 10,000 feet large ancient stone pillars. Meanwhile, there was a green dragon and white tiger symbol present on each stone pillar respectively. Is that? Lin Dong's pupils suddenly shrunk when he saw the large ancient stone pillars in their hands. The item ranked 17th on the ancient divine object ranking. For divine beast immortal suppression pillars. 2 ancient stone pillars flickered with dazzling radiance as they appeared in the hands of the Teng Feng duo. A green dragon symbol and a white tiger symbol were respectively engraved on the pillars. An astonishing but faint dragon and tiger roar were emitted. For divine beast immortal suppression pillars. Lin Dong's expression was grave as he gazed upon the ancient stone pillars that had appeared in the hands of the Tengfeng duo. He had managed to identify them immediately. These ancient stone pillars were the 17th ranked for divine beast immortal suppression pillars on the ancient divine object ranking. It was unexpected that such a divine object would appear in the hands of the 5 kings of Mang Mountain. By the side, Little Flame and the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's expressions also changed slightly at this moment. They could detect a great and mighty pressure from the ancient stone pillars. In the hands of people with Tengfeng's strength, the power of such a divine item could be described as earth-shaking. The increase in battle power due to these weapons was enough to break this stalemate. There are a total of 4 pillars which make up the 4 divine beast immortal suppression pillars. The ones in the Tengfeng duo's hands should be the green dragon and white tiger pillars. From the looks of it, they have separated the 4 pillars, one for each person. Despite this, any one of these 4 pillars alone is already extremely powerful. Golden Ape and Ghost Condor are likely about to be defeated. Lin Dong said in a deep voice. Damn it! The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander tightly clenched his teeth. He did not expect that Mang Mountain would have such a powerful ancient divine object. In this way, the equilibrium had been broken. The entire place had fallen into an uproar because of the 2 ancient stone pillars. Some people sighed inwardly. As expected of Mang Mountain, such resources were indeed far greater than the 3 demon commanders of the Beast War region. Ha ha, let's end this. Tengfeng looked at the now ugly expressions of the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo and heartily laughed at the sky. Without any unnecessary words, he waved his sleeve. The green dragon pillar and the white tiger pillar in their hands whistled forward, turning into 2 10,000 feet bright lights that tore through space in an unstoppable manner. Finally, they smashed towards the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo with lightning speed. Roar! The Golden Ape Demon Commander let out a furious roar as resplendent golden light burst forth from the golden armor on his body. Strange patterns flowed within the golden light. Clearly, the golden armor on his body was also a divine object. However, it was merely an ordinary divine object and was unable to leave its name on the ancient divine object ranking. Ayo! The Ghost Condor Demon Commander also sensed the danger. He let out a sharp screech as his body swiftly swelled while black feathers frantically grew on the surface his body. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a 10,000 feet large ghost condor. The defenses around his body was unleashed to the limit. Rumble. 2 10,000 feet bright lights pierced through the void when their defenses were activated. After which, they ruthlessly smashed onto the bodies of the 2 in front of countless pairs of eyes. A deep and loud noise thundered across the area while incomparably wild and violent energy spread like a storm. This crazy clash did not end up in a stalemate. The golden light and the black light around the 2 commanders were shattered under the exceptionally overwhelming bright light. A muffled sound appeared, and the 2 figures miserably shot backwards in front of the many stunned pairs of eyes. Finally, they smashed heavily onto the ground, forming a deep 1,000-feet-long gully. Ha ha, you wish to battle my Mang Mountain with just this ability? You really overestimate yourselves. The Tengfeng duo stood in the air and laughed wildly. Soon after, with a wave of their hands, the ancient stone pillars returned. This battle was already over. Many pitying gazes looked towards the miserable states of the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo. Their appearance was extremely terrible. The golden armor on the Golden Ape Demon Commander had split open. Evidently, they were no match for the Tengfeng duo when they were wielding the for divine beast immortal suppression pillars. Lin Dong pursed his lips as he watched this scene. With a wave of his hand, his men swiftly rushed forward and helped the 2 of them back. We lost. The Golden Ape Demon Commander's face was a little pale and there were traces of blood hanging from the corner of his mouth. However, he had a slightly ashamed look in his eyes when he looked at Lin Dong. Originally, they had planned to create a good start by being the first to fight. However, they had ended up being completely defeated. Moreover, they had simultaneously lost 2 rounds. It is not a problem. Lin Dong chuckled. His young face continued to remain calm. This calmness made the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo feel slightly better. These bastards. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander gnashed his teeth in anger. The Teng Feng duo had the bloodline advantage to begin with. Yet, they still took out such a powerful ancient divine object. This was practically bullying. No matter how one obtains it, victory is all that matters in the arena. We cannot complain about what they have done. Lin Dong shook his head and softly said, "We have already lost 2 rounds. There will no longer be any chances left if we lose another. Shall I fight this round?" The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander hesitated for a moment before he asked in a probing fashion. However, he did not have much confidence. His strength was on par with the Golden Ape Demon Commander duo. If the other party still had the other 4 Divine Beast Immortal Suppression Pillars, it was likely that he would also be defeated. I might not lose if I have the 9 Sky Heavy Mountain, the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander said. Soon after, he seemed to have realized something and shut his mouth in an awkward manner. The 9 Sky Heavy Mountain, which originally belonged to him, had been snatched away by Little Martin. Lin Dong smiled. He mused for a moment before turning around and grabbing the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander's hand. Soon after, he withdrew his hand in front of the stunned expressions of those around him. This? The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander opened and closed his hand as surprise flashed across his face. "I will lend it to you," Lin Dong smilingly replied. "All right." Joy surged in the eyes of the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander, before he heavily nodded. His body moved and he leaped onto the stage. His eyes shot towards the direction of Mang Mountain as he coldly cried out, "Bring it!" "Ha ha, don't you think that you have embarrassed yourselves enough?" Teng Hua let out a mocking laughter. After which, he also leaped onto the stage and cocked his head slightly, showing a face full of playfulness. With a clench of his hand, a fiery red ancient stone pillar appeared. There was a vermilion bird symbol swirling around it. The vermilion bird pillar of the 4 Divine Beast Immortal Suppression Pillars was indeed in his hands. Teng Hua fiddled with the vermilion bird pillar as he mocked the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander. "Aren't you going to scram now that you have seen this thing?" The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander laughed coldly. Both of his hands were tightly clenched as majestic and boundless Yuan power spread. Life and death chi merged perfectly within the boundless Yuan power. Still planning on stubbornly resisting? Forget it, I will finish you off. Teng Hua faintly laughed. He did not have any intentions of warming up. With a wave of his sleeve, the vermilion bird pillar shot towards the sky. Bright red flames spread and the temperature of the surroundings abruptly soared. Evidently, he had decided to use his strongest technique to smash the morale of the 4 Titans Palace with a single strike. Bang! A monstrous flaming light came whistling over, appearing in the air above the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander in front of many pitying eyes. Several people quietly sighed as they watched this scene. The 4 Titans Palace had really lost all face today. All 3 rounds had been lost and it was basically impossible for them to hinder Mang Mountain at all. The stage cracked apart at this moment as the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander lifted his head and looked at the fierce attack that was unfurling towards him. He gritted his teeth and swung his sleeve. An azure light beam suddenly shot out, growing as it transformed into a giant blue bell. A majestic wave seemed to surge from this giant bell. Clang! The fiery red light ruthlessly smashed into the giant bell. However, the expected scene of the bell crumbling did not occur. The giant bell proudly stood, continuously ringing as it directly blocked the vermilion bird pillar attack. What? Outside the stage, the expressions of Teng Lin and the others changed after seeing this. That is, the sea calming bell. Luo Tong slightly narrowed his eyes as he looked at the giant azure bell. His voice contained some bewilderment. The 26th ranked sea calming bell on the divine object ranking? Teng Lin's group was startled and they quickly frowned. It seemed that this 4 Titans Palace had also come prepared. Although the sea-calming bell was inferior in ranking to the for divine beast immortal suppression pillars, Tinghua currently only had the vermilion bird pillar in his hands and its full power could not be fully unleashed. Naturally, it was very difficult to break the defense of the sea-calming bell. It looks like Tinghua will not be able to win this round. However, he will not lose either. Luo Tong said in a faint voice. No matter. Now that the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander has fought, those two are the only ones left. They have yet to reach the Samsara stage and aren't worth mentioning. Teng Lin said in a cold voice. By the side, Ting Shan, who had yet to fight, grinned. His eyes were filled with a baleful aura. You can be rest assured that I will make them despair. On the stage, Tinghua was startled when he saw that his attack had been blocked, but rage quickly filled his heart. A thought passed through his mind and 100,000 feet large light suddenly exploded from the vermilion bird pillar and attacked the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander in an even more ferocious manner. However, the latter relied on the power of the sea-calming bell to receive all of the storm-like attacks without falling into a disadvantageous position. Although the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander had received the attacks, his counter-attacks were also unable to break through Tinghua's vermilion bird pillar. Both parties continued to exchange blows, but everyone could tell that it was difficult for a victor to be decided. No one could win this round. Clearly, both parties were well aware of this. Hence, they helplessly gave up after continuing for a while and both of them withdrew together. This battle could be considered a draw. Some exclamations sounded due to this unexpected result. Originally, they thought that the Four Titans Palace would be completely defeated this round. Never would they have imagined that they would manage to hold out a little longer. However, when everyone looked at the Four Titans Palace's remaining Lindong and Little Flame, all of them silently shook their heads. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander might have managed to slightly redeem them, but it was obvious that the Four Titans Palace no longer had any powerful experts. On the other hand, Mang Mountain still had Ting Shan and the strongest Luo Tong. It was a rather bleak situation for the Four Titans Palace. Big brother, it's my turn. Little Flame deeply inhaled a breath of air and said in a low voice. Lindong nodded. He gently grasped Little Flame's hand as a meaningful look flashed across those black eyes. This episode ends here.